Hello everyone, it's Thomas Marr here from formulaspy.com and it's time for an update on your very latest Formula 1 news. Starting with Alex Zanardi, who continues to recover in hospital after his serious road traffic accident on Friday. The Italian racing driver and Paralympic athlete was seriously injured in a crash during a national Paralympic handbike race on Friday evening. Italian media reported that Zanardi collided with a lorry while close to the end of the stage, and he was airlifted to hospital in critical condition. Since then, the Santa Maria alle Scotte hospital in Siena has issued a clinical update on his condition. The update from the hospital said, regarding the clinical conditions of the athlete Alex Zanardi, hospitalized from the 18th of June in very serious condition at the Santa Maria alle Scotte polyclinic following a road accident occurred in the province of Siena. The Aou Senese Health Directorate informs that the patient, subjected to a delicate neurosurgical intervention on the evening of 19th of June and subsequently transferred to intensive care, he has stable hemodynamic and metabolic parameters. He is intubated and supported by artificial ventilation, while the neurological picture remains serious. Zanardi was a Formula 1 driver during the 90s, although his greatest success came in kart racing in America. Involved in a serious crash at the Lausitzring in 2001, Zanardi lost both of his legs and turned to Paralympic racing, where he has made his name as a record-breaking athlete. He also returned to motorsport with adapted vehicles and has raced with BMW in touring cars and last year in the Rolex 24 at Daytona. There's been an outpouring of support from the motorsport world in the wake of Zanardi's accident. The FIA president Jean Todt tweeted his support, saying, "Alex, all the FIA community is supporting you in this cruel moment. Our prayers are with you. You have always been a fighter and you always will be." Former racing rival Dario Franchitti said, "My thoughts are with Alex Zanardi tonight. He has defied the odds his whole life, always done the seemingly impossible. When we raced against each other, I realised there was never a point in any race that in his mind he was beaten. I'm praying for another Zanardi miracle." The Racing Point RP20, which showed quite favourably on the timesheets during pre-season testing in Barcelona, has become the first 2020 car to be driven on track since then. With every Grand Prix cancelled in the first half of the season, the revised schedule sees Formula 1 kick off the season in 2 weeks' time at the Red Bull Ring. Racing Point used up their second permitted filming day at Silverstone's National Circuit on Friday. They moved across the road from their factory and used the opportunity to use their last filming day of the season to refresh themselves with Lance Stroll at the wheel. Filming days mean the team are restricted to 100 kilometres a day with specially provided Pirelli compounds. Ferrari are also expected to carry out a filming day next week using their 2020 car. Both Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc are set for driving duties, and it's set for Mugello in Italy. Speaking of Ferrari, they woke up their hometown of Maranello on Thursday morning by sending Charles Leclerc out on the street in his 2020 SF1000. 3.5 months on from the final day of pre-season testing, the 2020 Ferrari F1 car was fired up again and driven by Charles Leclerc down the streets of Maranello. This served as something of a symbolic reawakening for the area, because it was hit devastatingly hard by the coronavirus over the last few months. Leclerc drove out at the Maranello factory gates at the crack of dawn, heading out of the factory and onto the streets. The Ferrari event was organised in conjunction with the Maranello City Council, who helped keep the streets clear for spectators to gather and watch the 2020 Formula 1 Ferrari drive down to the track at Fiorano. Leclerc stopped the car on the track as track testing of the 2020 car is not permitted. Speaking afterwards, Charles said, "I don't normally like getting up early, but this morning there was a great reason to do so. Maybe it woke a few people up, but it was great to drive my Ferrari through the streets of Maranello in the SF1000. It was exciting to get back in the car today, particularly on such a special route. Being back in the cockpit felt like coming home again. It seemed like a fun way of saying we're ready to get back on track." He continued, "Now I can't wait to drive the SF1000 in Austria." McLaren also got their 2 drivers ready for the season by heading down to Silverstone with a pair of Carlin F3 cars as they took part in private testing with the British team. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz both got their chance to tear up the track to sharpen up ahead of the season starting, including lots of wet weather running. McLaren weren't able to use their 2018 F1 car for testing, as they've changed power supply since, from Honda to Renault, and as a result don't have access to a period-spec 2018 Honda engine. Lewis Hamilton has announced that he'll launch the Hamilton Commission to help encourage more racial diversity within motorsport. Writing in an exclusive interview for the UK's The Sunday Times, Hamilton gave some insight into what he has faced during his 2 decades of racing and how he's teamed up with the Royal Academy of Engineering to make a difference. He said, "I've been fighting the stigma of racism throughout my racing career, from kids throwing things at me while karting, to being taunted by fans in blackface at a 2007 Grand Prix, one of my very first Formula 1 races. I'm used to being one of very few people of colour on my teams, and more than that, I'm used to the idea that no one will speak up for me when I face racism, because no one personally feels or understands my experience. Most of the time they don't even see it, and if they do, they let their fear of saying the wrong thing get in the way. I've been working with the Royal Academy of Engineering to create the Hamilton Commission, a research partnership dedicated to exploring how motorsport can be used as a vehicle to engage more young people from black backgrounds with science, technology, engineering and mathematics subjects, and ultimately employ them on our teams or in other engineering sectors. I hope that the Hamilton Commission enables real, tangible and measurable change. When I look back in 20 years, I want to see the sport that gave a shy, working class black kid from Stevenage so much opportunity become as diverse as the complex and multicultural world we live in." They're the stories making the headlines at the moment. If you want to stay up to date with these and more, check out our website formulaspy.com. You can also subscribe to me on Twitter at thomasmarr on F1. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll have another video for you very soon.